Alright everyone, welcome back to another news. Alright, well everyone, it's your boy Ken Atsusuki here back at it again with another new spanking hot what if video for today. And for y'all, and today, well, I was thinking about ideas for, of course, for Demon Tail, and for what if Naruto was the reincarnation of Demon Tail Frisk, and then I got the idea of, well, the title is a bit vague. Egg likes some of my other titles, but, well, you should be able to piece together other from what you have seen of me. As this what if is called, what if female Naruto was sent to the void. Now, y'all might be wondering what is exactly the void. The void is a place that exists with outside, but at the same time inside existence itself. Basically, it's a place where physics do not apply, reality itself does not apply. There's no gravity, no laws, no physics, nothing. And if you're able to if you're able to control that place, you basically will become a god of that place. Now, let's start with this what if. Now, here's the strange part about this. Female Naruto would have been born many years, and would have been born at the same time. Basically, everything will go up to canon except the very fact that she was female. However, instead of being accepted by the village eventually, there was even more hate and more anger hurled towards her. As she, of course, did become Hokage, and things went to canon except with her harboring a lot of sadness, depression, and even suicidal tendencies. Until one day, the Atsusuki would attack. Now, of course, she would have to suck in her own feelings for the village for the world, thinking that if she beat the Atsusuki, they would actually consider her a good person instead of just a filthy demon. As we skip to the battle against Ishiki. As Ishiki would be fighting against Naruto, and would be fighting against the female Naruto, as the two would be battling basically on the moon. As female Naruto would go into the Baryon mode and would try to defeat, they would be activating the Baryon mode. However, just as this was happening, Ishiki would see a perfect time to defeat, and as her being distracted, as Ishiki would have created a portal right behind her, as he was planning to send her to an unknown world or some random place. However, due to the Biju chakra leaking out, and, well, the transformation transformation not being complete, there would be major difficulties, as the portal would go on the fritz and instead of bringing her to an unknown place, to a random place, it would bring her to a black, empty void. As her chakra would be gone, it would just glitch into the void. As Kurama and the other Biju as Kurama would have glitched away as well, as she would have no power, just there, lonely, in the darkness, for what seemed like forever. Now, allow me to explain how time would exactly work in this place. Imagine one day in this place basically being equal. Basically, imagine 1 second in this place. Well, no. Imagine 1,000 years in this place being equal to 1 second in the normal world. Well, no, the other way around. Hold on. As over time in this blank, as over what she thought and actually is billions of years, she would go under catastrophic changes, as eventually she would become a denizen of the void, under this blank void, as eventually her skin would turn pale, her hair would turn as black as night, and her clothes would even change, as she would become the first god of the void, and the first being of the void. And she would look like this. Yes, this is a female Gaster, what if? Weren't expecting that, huh? Where are you, nerds? Anywho, she would basically go under dramatic changes of even personality, as she would wander around in this blank void, testing many things, theories that she had, as she would also be testing on what type of powers or abilities she had gained from this transformation, as she would be able to summon a blaster that looked like this. She would also be able to summon, as with the blaster, she can summon multiple of them, and giant hands with holes in them, each with different powers depending on what color the circle in the middle is glowing. And she could then summon a blade that looked like this, as it would allow her to tear a hole in reality. And she doesn't exactly know its abilities quite yet. All she knows is she can summon a sword. As she's just in this void over the course of billions upon billions upon billions of years. Until suddenly we hear and we see something. A hole opening in the void. Now, the void is a place that exists in and out of space and time, meaning that each gateway that is opened leads to an entirely different and leads to an entirely different place and time. As she would see the small rift just open up. This was the first time ever since she got here that I ever opened a gateway. As she bolted into the gateway, obviously, as she would land in Konoha. However, it was newer. It looked younger. As she would look around and see a ginormous nine-tailed fox in the sky. A ginormous nine-tailed fox attacking the village. As she would then see a man with yellow hair basically rush at the beast. As she would see a woman with a yellow and red-haired male in her hands. As I forgot to mention, when a being goes into the void, they're basically erased from existence and replaced. Okay? She would just look around confusingly, as she would think, am I in some sort of alternate timeline? Am I in the past, or... As she would begin thinking, what happened? Where did that worm, and where did that rift bring her to? Or at least when? As she would then see the nine-tailed fox be sealed inside of the child. She would then just walk from the shadows and watch the whole event unfold. As we then see a man walk out of the shadows right next to her. As this man is Obito Uchiha. As Obito would then say, what are you doing here? Who even are you? As she would then speak. However, it would sound like... As she would be speaking in the oldest language of all time. In the strangest and probably most complex language of all time. Wingdings. Even now I can't translate a single thing. Well, I can remember the bottom, some of the bottom. What do you two think? And what do you two think? As that's what the bottoms... As that's part of it, I cannot remember the other part, though. As she would then say, and as Obito would then be back up, as he would say, and as he would then take off his mask and look at her. Because he could not exactly see very well in the mask, and it was nighttime, as he'd look at her and see her snow white skin, her pale white skin, and her black hair with black pits for eyes with white dots, as he would then see the holes in her palms, as she would then summon a katana, and she would then summon her katana, which is also called the Void Katana, and which is basically a special katana. Now, y'all might be wondering, wait a minute, what do you mean this katana is special? As Obito would basically, he would rush at her, as he would think that she had some sort of strange Kekkei with strange abilities that made her look like this. Either that or she was a demon. As he would try to capture her, as she would just summon her blade and would basically jump off the ground onto a tree and then jump off the tree again to another tree, and then would keep doing this while fighting Obito. As she would then close her eyes and, would concentrate, as suddenly, as she would then say, which is a translation for void breathing. Fifth form, eternal darkness. As she would rush over at Obito as she would then slash the blade once, as suddenly a giant lake of black, of what appeared to be blood, black blood would appear, as suddenly it would turn into ginormous tentacles and arms that could stretch out endlessly, as they would then grab Obito and slam him against the ground. As she would then say, or void breathing third form, limitless sky. As she would then vanish and she would then glitch away, as she would then appear about 100 feet above Obito, as she would have her katana facing down, and suddenly a black sort of mist would come from the katana, as she would basically be crashing down, as she would slice the ground, and the very part of ground that she had touched, basically anything in 10 feet of where she just landed, would turn into purple lava and purple flames. As she would then rush at, Obito again, as Obito, being confused as all hell, not even being able to translate a single word of what this woman is saying, would just say, "Kamui," and would basically use the Kamui, and would just vanish. As another person, of course, would have been watching her, and would have been watching. Now, this person will be the ship, but you guys tell me who the ship will be. It can be a harem, it can be multiple people. One thing that the ship must be, though, it must be only a woman or only women, okay? Because when I do female characters, I think it's weird to ship like a gender-bent character with a male. You know what I'm saying? So I only do lesbian ships. Okay? Now, she would then rush over at, and she would then, and would sheath her katana and walk, and basically would walk away. As she would walk all the way to the sand village, as she basically would stay hidden in this village just for a couple of years, as we skip to when Gaara is about 5. As Gaara is still adorable, he has not gone full demon Gaara yet. As now, people would, as the what is the name again? Damn. The Hokage the Kage of the Sand Village. I cannot remember what it is called for the time being. But the Kage of the of the Sand Village would basically try to kill Gaara at multiple occasions, sending multiple people at Gaara. However, this time it would be different. Instead of Gaara instead of sand protecting Gaara, it would be Naruto, or it would be female Naruto, or as she now calls herself, Gaster. As she would be, as anytime anyone would try to assassinate Gaara, she would always be there and would end them. Just with one simple, quiet blast. And then, poof, nothing but ashes. As she would walk away. At each time. As she would eventually go back to the Leaf Village, and, well, it would be, she would basically have been in this world for 8 years at this time, as we see a boy who is called Kinato, and who is named Kinato. As Kinato would be 8 years old, called a demon, all that. As he would be as he would just be sad and walking away. As Kinato would walk and would basically rush over to his school and to the academy, as he would have been late. Now, Gaster would then basically then think, the academy, how long it has been. As she would then glitch as she would then glitch again, as her hair would become much longer and her skin would become more human looking. As she would still have the cracks on her face. One going up from one eye to the forehead, and to the hairline, and another coming down from the eye towards the chin. As she'd also still have the holes in her hands, as she would put gloves on, as she would walk into the academy, as we see basically them doing the Genin exams. Now, Genato is basically in canon Naruto. It's basically canon Naruto, except more shy. Basically with the shyness of Hinata. Okay? As Genato would walk. As Gaster would walk into the classroom, as she would be a new student there. As they would say, and as the teacher would then say, make one clone. And make at least one clone jutsu. As she would then use the only type of, clones that she could, and the only type of clones that she could actually use anymore, and that she could only use shadow clones. However, this time, it would be much more different. Instead of like a billion shadow clones poofing it out of nowhere, basically the shadows around her would cover the entire room. Basically, shadows would cover the entire room as black blood like liquid would rise up from the shadows and would go into a humanoid form. As they would then all turn into and as one of them would turn into Iruka, another one would turn into Tobirama, another would turn into Hiruzen, another would turn into Hashirama, another would turn into Naruto, as another would then, Madara, as another would then turn into Minato. As he would then say, alright, you passed, now please use one jutsu. As she would then, and think, oh dear God, how am I going, oh dear Lord. Well, let's hope they buy this. As she would then walk outside with everyone else, as she would then move her hands, and as she would then pretend to do hand signs, as she would then say in Japanese, void breathing, first form, eclipse, as suddenly a orb of as suddenly light and shadows would begin swirling around each other and create a sort of black orb radiating with orange light. As it would then turn into a projectile, as she would then shoot it at an entire forest, as suddenly over 500 trees would have been exploded and would have been turned to ash. As she would then say, is that good? Is that good enough? Now, just take in mind that this is her weakest ability, okay? Now, when she was fighting with Obito earlier, she wasn't even putting much focus or concentration into those attacks. And seriously, if she wanted, she could have made those attacks a lot stronger and killed him. However, she was just playing with Obito. Basically like a warning, meaning don't mess with me. This attack, of course, would be devastatingly awesome, as Mizuki and And as Mizuki and Iruka would then say, you pass. As Gaster would then walk out, and would then walk out and grab a headband. As when she touched it, however, the cloth of the headband would turn black, as the metal of the headband would get a slightly purple tint. As she would then say, much better. As she would then put it on under her hair. Of course, because seriously, if she was to put it on over her hair, it would just look weird. Okay? As she would then basically walk away. Over to a house which she just built yesterday. As she would walk in the house and go to bed. As while she slept, she would see a couple of people basically phasing into her mindscape. One of these people would be in the shape of a woman with orange hair, red and black eyes, and 9 orange tails. As the woman would then say, why do I feel like I know you? As Gaster would then speak in English, disappointing, is it not? Not even my eldest friend remembers me. Looks like I really am in an alternate. Looks like I really am in an alternate timeline. One where the very values of this entire universe have changed just by a small margin, but still greatly changed. As she would then say, you are Kurama, also known as the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Isn't that correct? As the woman would then say, how do you know that? How do you know my name? As she would then say, allow me to introduce myself. Properly. As she would then snap her fingers, as her hair would then become longer and it would turn yellow, as her clothes would then change and her skin and eyes would change, as she would then get the 6 whiskers and would say, in a, I guess you could say, alternate timeline, I was your host instead of this Kinato boy. Instead of that Kinato boy. And no matter what we did, even though we befriended each other, and even though I finally managed to befriend you, and everything I did to protect the world, everyone hated me. Even when I fought against little gods, they hated me. And so, well, I got into a depressed state. Now, you, of course, were dying and you, of course, were permanently dying as I battled against a strong god named Ishiki. And then, while you were dying and you were giving me a power called the Baryon mode, you kind of... How can I explain this? You were disappearing, and he opened a portal with your chakra and mine leaking out, and this portal trying to teleport me to a random place, I was brought to a blank black world where no rules exist. There are no boundaries, no one, nothing, no rules, no gravity, no reality, just a void. As she would then say, and I am the first denizen of the void. As she would then snap her fingers again and turn back into this form, as she would say, Now please go back into that Kinato boy. After all, we don't want him dying on us now, do we? As she would then wave her hand, and Kurama would have been basically blown back into Kinato. As a person would appear behind her. As this person would have white skin, but blue and white hair, with black and blue eyes. As this person is a male, as he then says, Who are you? So, you are the first denizen of the void, huh? Well then, I want to test your strength. After all, I hear you have mastered the legendary powers of the void. But I want to know how far you actually go with that. As you know, and so please, show me the power of the void itself. As she would then say, Very well then. As he would then say, oh, and no holding back. I want you to give your full concentration and strength into every attack you land. Okay? As she would then say, fine. As he would then say, now, let's fight. As the man would then dash towards her and would summon 3 Gaster Blasters with blue eyes. As she would then say, 3. So you summon 3 blasters, huh? Well, that will not be nearly enough to save you. As she would then say, Void breathing, second form. Existential collision. As suddenly pieces of buildings and as suddenly pieces of buildings, mountains, rocks, and statues, and even lakes and other random things would appear and would begin colliding around the man. As she would then say, hey, expand. As suddenly a elemental explosion of glass, metal, rock, water, flame, and all sorts of other things would happen, as the man would then jump backwards with bruises on his bones, as the man would then say, you're not bad, not bad, but can you match this? As he would then say, and as the man would then say, patience breathe. As the man would then say, patience breathing, first form. Warm, stillness, as everything would then be silent, as Gastro and then the man who is Sans would not be able to move, as his eyes would then glow, as one of his eyes would then glow with blue fire, as he would rush over her towards her, as he would then say, silent slash, as the attack would hit, but it would go right through her, as she would have been cut in half, of course, but it'd be like she was made of shadows, as they just reconnect almost instantly. As she would then say, is that all you have? Patience? Tisk, tisk, tisk. As she would then say, void breathing, 6th form. Infinite. Void breathing, 6th form. Infinite rage. Infinite calamity. As suddenly purple lightning and purple and black lightning would swirl around into forms of giant tornadoes. As suddenly blades made of purple and black energy would just be sent hurling towards Sans, as they would then swirl around him like a ginormous twister or tornado. As she would then say, final strike. As we then see everything stop, as suddenly over 10,000 slashes of black and purple energy would go all over Sans, as he would then basically be knocked back about 10,000 miles in the mindscape, as he would then say, looks like I underestimated you. It won't happen the next time we meet. In fact, the next time we meet, you'll meet my brother. And while he may seem weak at first glance, do not be fooled. As Sans would then teleport away. As Gaster would then say, what an interesting specimen. And this is the power of patience. It appears to rely on stillness, time, and silence. Boring. As she would then basically wake up and would walk outside of her home, as she would then see Cliffhanger no Jutsu. And that's where I'm ending this part off. Hope y'all enjoyed part 1 of what if female Naruto fell into the void and was sent to the void. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. And if I have notifications, please click them. I hope y'all have enjoyed, and yeah, goodbye and skadoosh.